Yeah, we are going to debate upon motion number 1. Without any further ado, I call upon Prime Minister to start the debate.
Audible. Okay, cool. Just setting up a timer. Okay, I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. In an ideal world where people are pursuing on self-actualization and achievement in the real world, the majority of people will most likely to choose the path that they want and they are happy with, right? However, knowing the fact that in our status quo, people are glorifying potential over impact, we see this as problematic. Why? Because in our status quo, the majority of people are easily affected by the media, right? Knowing the fact that there are lots of spoon bits informations out there which haven't really been proven the authenticity. Let's take IT for an example. These days, media such as TikTok and Instagram are starting to share information regarding the potential of occupation in the future. And most of them are glorifying the role of IT in the future, which made people believe that IT is the path that they need to choose in order to strive in the future, although that it haven't been proven yet. Now, what we are debating today, know that glorification is a way of people to praise or uphold a certain matter, to show people that the thing that they are glorifying is better. Now, what is the impact of glorification in the status quo? We can see that the outcome that we get from glorification is that people would believe more on the things they see in the medias, although the fact has not yet been proven, which made people make the wrong options regarding their life journey. It also prevents growth. Know the fact that sometimes potential doesn't always mean inherent good. Yes, we know that that potential is a way of seeing the greatness in people. However, know that potential is like a gamble. There's a 50-50% chance of potential being not true, which then only led to false options in life. So what does our world look like? Most likely, in their world, it looks like young people, especially those with huge potential being praised a lot, are being urged to immediately start to dig their potential. When young people, especially those that haven't experienced a lot, can easily get complicated, feeling like they are a young genius that should be listened to, or feeling like they are on the top of the world. Also looks like people blindly following the so-called analysts and diving in sectors that are the most potential without clearly understanding the hardship and risk involved. And also, glorification most likely looks like people putting emphasis on the good parts. For example, it is the new booming interest, it will take over the world, letting you gain easy money. The problem is that such glorification often hides, minimizes, and sugarcoats the hardship and risk involved, making people dive in without much consideration and too much hold on utopic scene that are weaved by these glorifications. Now, onto my arguments. Why will this hinder their growth? Notice what is the meaning of potential. It means that a certain person and field own a huge likelihood in creating success. However, notice at the end, regardless of how big one's potential is, we need hard work and clear understanding in our foundation in order to make sure that those with potential could truly create something that are expected of them. The problem then is by putting glorification on potential, it creates unsupportive environment for the growth of these potentials. Because notice at the end, potential are possibility and not result for that possibility to turn out. It has to fulfill several prerequisites. Humility as opposed to complacency. Notice for someone to be able to grow out of their potential, they need to undertake even more hardship than normal people would, right? And with glorification of potential comes the praise that are unwarranted, looking like someone being praised just simply because they have potential, giving them titles such as the hope of XXX industry. This compromises their willingness to work harder. Instead putting them on an altar that easily makes one forget oneself. This is even more problematic, especially when potential are usually seen in youth, which are at the end not mature enough to handle praises while having a hold on themselves, right? Potential young people, especially can easily have inflated ego, creating a sense of self-regard and thus, at the end, running their own potential instead. On our side, however, putting importance of impact, let everyone realize the fact that every people and industry has its impact that creates discourse on each industry and bring forward and instead of saying how great one is or how much possibility it brings impact, bring forward cases that had already happened, giving people understanding to what each people and industry has achieved as opposed to potential that remains unknown. The second analysis of my argument is about understanding. Only when you understand a certain thing will you have the possibility of creating something with the potential you own. We want people's drive to dive into something because of the fact that they do understand the impact it can bring to the people, as opposed to because they are being put on an altar. We can see this difference, right? In young genius that slowly got burned out because they are put at an altar who gets too much expectation because of being put on them without giving them chance to prove the worth of their potential, right? Instead, putting impact as a focus makes people align one's praise and acknowledgement based on what they achieve. What does it mean? It looks like you being praised not because you have achieved with not only your potential, but also your hard work. Notice the difference on opposition side. Most likely, they praise people because of possibility and not on reality, which at the end makes people understand things based on likelihood and possibility, especially when people haven't had a time to chance to change. This is to change. This is bad because expectations are set without giving these potential time to grow. Imagine the pressure just because you're told that you're potential. The whole world will stare at you for a certain amount of with a certain amount of expectation. It may motivate you, yet at the end, a large amount of it will create pressure and crush these shining buds with with pressure instead. It also may even spoil them into arrogancy. And instead of putting emphasis on how many hardship they go through to achieve the impact, they put emphasis on what they could and not achieve, instead on encouraging them to work harder. They praise based on their ability. Now, onto my second argument. Why is this unfair? Potential is at the end of many targets as to why someone succeeds. A lot more aspects affects the success of someone. It could be a sudden disaster. It could be the amount of hardship invested. It could be the unaligned passion and potential. We do not wish for people to be forced into a certain field simply because their potential. They have to work their best for the greater good. Instead, we hope people could have choice, but not only that, we say that it's also unfair that we put spotlight based on people's potential. Notice that potential in people, especially are inborn. Such things are given based on the lottery of birth, when in reality, even you aren't born as talented with enough hard work. You may in reality, even if you aren't born as talented with enough hard work, you may still able to achieve success. Exactly because of that, we believe that we should focus on impact itself, because at the end, it is much fairer as it puts so much more aspect other than inborn ability. Therefore, we are proud to propose. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. To open the case from opposition, we call it LO.
Is my voice is audible?
Yep, audible.
Okay, I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Potential give us hope, but impact give us anxiety. Now, before I get into my argument, I want to give some rebuttal to the government. First, they say that in our world, young people get easily affected by media, and by seeing great in people, it gives them a false hope. But here's my argument: when they get affected by media and they want to try it, it's a new thing for the young people, and they like to try a new thing. And when they realize they're good at it, why not trying to develop it? If people good at what they do, they will work hard to develop it, and it's not prevent their growth, it's make them grow to be better. And when people want to develop their potential, they will make hard work, like the government has said, but the hard work will make what they want into the reality. It won't give them a false hope, because when we work hard, we can't get away to be successful. The second argument is the focusing on potential, if focusing on possibility and not the reality. But we realize that we can make the possibility to be a reality, right? They can change this possibility to the reality by developing their potential. They can make their potential to be work in the reality, because when they work hard, they will develop the potential, and it will be a reality to them. And now, the third argument, they said that it will make people and industry understand what they achieve. Yes, impact can make people understand, but potential give them a chance to make the achieve a bigger thing. They can achieve a bigger thing that they know now by focusing on their potential. So let's imagine in a counterfactual world, and not infant counterfactual, because these beliefs that life is dictated by impact still exist nowadays. Here's why it will be much worse when focusing on impact. There are 3 reasons. The first one is because impact is short-oriented. Impact is short-oriented because it's just focusing in what will happen in the short term, and it won't make any good in the long-term development. When focusing impact, that means people focusing on what a bad thing that will happen in the future, and it makes us focus in short term. While we still don't know the future, we're still not sure of the future, and we should be focusing on the long term, right? Long-term development will make people develop better, develop more than the short term. And the second thing is it make people focus in the result. And why shouldn't we focus terribly on the result? Because result is affected by many factors, and thank you to the government team that have agreed with us about this, when the Prime Minister or the first speaker has already said that success can be attributed to many factors, and things like unforeseen disaster could affect success. Yes, exactly, this is the base of my second layer here. Factors also include the undeniable influence of luck. For example, a stellar student who is unlucky because they fall terribly ill when they taking the final exam. Thus, they would be considered a bad student. But this is untrue because it is unfair to measure a person by a very limited, incredible short amount of time, because they possibly have a place to grow more than this. The third is focusing in impact will make people overthinking, and this is make people won't grow. It will make people regret things in the future. Why? Because there are 3 reasons. The first one is it's people nature to be scared about something, about future, and by focusing impact, it will make it worse. Fear is a natural feeling in every person's life. It has existed ever since we are born. Fear of darkness, fear of water, even fear of vegetable, and etc. The government would agree that the utilization of fear would result in a push for change, and yet the overlooked factor here is how people respond to the fear. I think we can all agree that fear is not a feeling we would treasure much. Yes, we must process it, but is it something we want to nurture? No, of course. When fear becomes a tool of control, the result will not be achieved for the sake of growth. Time and time we saw why fear is not a sustainable tool, as shown by the many rise and fall of dictatorship in this world. The bottom line that we want to highlight here is that if the government is so concerned with legacy, lasting impact, change, and etc., then potential answer that challenge much better than impact. Because if impact is the single one-track mind in people believe, they could very easily get lost in a question, will it be a good thing for them and will it bad? So they will afraid the result and they won't even to try. The second thing is the impact will make people think the worst of what could be. Extending the first layer of how impact make people think too much about the possible consequence of their action, said weighing down by a person to concern with impact will not be fair. When a person is trying to weigh their decision, they will ruminate too much on the worst case scenario, and is this something we want to nurture, something we can be sure to be healthy for everyone? The answer is plain and clear and easy, it's a no. Ruminating on the worst will serve no purpose at all. Instead, it debilitates, cripples the efficiency of personal work. They will be unsure of themselves, they will lose confidence, lose faith in themselves, and it's very easy picture to paint that this is not something we want from our fellow human being. And the third is impact will make people scared to try. It's already explained before that it is natural feeling in every person's life, and when we focus on the impact, it will make people scared of what will happen in the future. It will make people don't want to try just because they scare about something that we even don't know if it will happen or not. We will never know if we never try, right? By focusing on impact, it will block the possibility to grow, to learn new things, to try different things, when it's people nature to grow through their life. People need to grow in their life, and not trying anything won't make they grow. On the opposite, it will make people not developing. It could be even get the people get worse. And here's my argument. Why is potential better? The first is potential first before impact. Impact can exist before potential. With this flow of thought, it is very easy to summarize that clues. Potential must come first before impact. This is the very simple stand that we are going to highlight on our debate today. In the opposition side of the house, we believe that every impact, every success, every failure, every breakout, and basically everything human being has ever received in our 1,000 million years of long history, it's come from within. Within what? Within themselves. And this is what we call potential. The government might be concerned about impact because impact dictates life, but it's not true assessment. Nothing should ever prove to be completely surprising. The possibility has always been there, and we are not talking about a long shot or a one in a million chance, a kind of thing. We're talking about potential, something already known that a human being has already been introduced to from maybe an early stage of their life. And the second argument is potential gives hope. People need hope in their life. Without hope, they won't survive. They will give up their life. They will fail. Hope gave them a spirit in their life. It will make them grow brave to try because they believe they have the potential. They can grow. Hope can make people want to be better and better again. Once again, I will talk about people nature. People have a tendency to scare, to give up, to being pessimistic about something, and without hope, it will drag people down to darkness. They won't see any light in their life, and they will give up their life. So that's why we are proud to propose.
Thank you, LO. Going back to government, DPM, Deputy Prime Minister.
Am I audible?
Yep, you are audible.
My name is Radhika, and I go by they, them, and I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Now, judges, before stating my arguments, I will be doing some quite a lot of rebuttals. So, first of all, know that what we meant by people get affected easily by media is because sometimes media glorify things, estimated things without really giving the hardship they will go through if they choose a certain path. In this case, a path that people praised way too much of our potential. Based solely on our potential, there's no record before that potential, like the experiences and the journey before it. And impact is short oriented is very contradictory because impact is what will come in the long run that will affect things in the long run. So know that focusing on impact is much more certain than focusing on potential, which my first speaker has stated that potential is like a gamble. Know that the opposition team can't really argue with the fact that people who focuses on potential will most likely to gamble on something that is not certain. And the burden of proof that the opposition needs to answer is that how are they going to assure people that potential will give them more benefits, when again, potential doesn't always mean inherent good. And fear. We do not push people to fear. However, we want to be aware about what will they face in the future if they choose a certain path. Know that at the end of the day, those people know themselves better, right, than anybody else. When what we can do is to assure that we can give the equal pros and cons of making decisions, which is something that glorifying isn't doing. Instead of glorifying, only focusing on the good outcome without even saying, instead of glorifying, only focuses on the good outcome without even saying about the bad outcomes that are most likely to happen either way. Focus on result is contradicted of what the opposition is saying, because our side of the house believe that glorify potential of one's is most likely to prevent someone who focuses prevent someone to grow. Our side of the house is better and not only focus on the result, because we actually care about the journey, the process, the hard work comes along or before the potential experiences. What we regret is not the potential, but the way people glorify and put potential solely on a throne that threaten to disrespect other factors that comes along with potential that I've mentioned before to achieve a certain result. And if we never try, the opposition told that if we never try, we never know, is contradicted, because the opposition does not regret of how they glorify and overestimated of one potential. We actually pursue people to this sentence better, because we are giving a equal opportunity to people, not because they have a potential, because just maybe they're just interested in a certain field, but they're not as have a more potential than other people that might have a bigger potential in our society. And going to my arguments, let's talk about the impact in the long run of the glorification of potential as opposed to impact. There will be two impacts that would most likely to happen under our side of the side to prove and why we read it. We all know that in status quo, and stated by my prime minister, the potential is not something that is proven yet. It's just a possibility that lies on someone that haven't happened yet. It's just something that could. It hasn't happened, and we cannot. We can guarantee that these possibilities. We can't guarantee that these possibilities would make the best outcome from small and bigger scale. Now that my prime minister has already told you the impacts the glorification potential towards one, those impacts that could happen to a person as the result of glorification potential would actually impact their surroundings in present time and in the long run in the impact. So a person who is the result of glorification, they would be very they would become as a snob person, knowing that their potential keeps getting overestimated than it actually is, could blind them to actually develop their potential more. There are other possibilities that are not as strong as their main potential. Let's say that a person has a potential in writing essays, but they're much more focused on writing essays because of how people glorify it and how people overestimated their skill and how they put that certain person's skill of writing on a throne, while they could have grown or developed other things that could benefit them too, not just writing essays. They could develop other skills such as like better public speaking or other such things that maybe they could develop a skill in a like tech subject and etc. And this could affect them in the long run when they are jumping into the much more professional industry and their workspace. If someone who decided to join industry based solely on their potential, because all of these praises and validation that is like way too much of what actually is of their potential that are overestimated by the society because of the glorification, right, would not give a good impact to the certain industry. Now, the industry would not have a shallow mind to recruiting employee just based on their their potential, right? Of course, that's just not a smart move for them. But the result is in the way of treating these people in the industry itself. The industry, if this glorification of potential keeps on going, the workspace would not be healthy. People would most likely to praise more the person who just got in, but they have this potential that keeps on glorifying, keeps on getting glorified, and then it will left the people who has the same like skill, but they're not as they don't get all of these praises by the person who get spotlight for their potential, but they have been working so hard in the same field, on the same subject. They have numerous experiences, but they got neglected on because people glorify on the potential more and it could disrespect the hard work and such a thing that comes along with the potential. And this could not give a good working space. Why? Because the person who repeatedly gets praises and getting over getting glorified of their potential would most likely to be very they could close their sort of like they would not get any constructive criticism, because they think that, oh, their potential is way better than you think, and they would become a snob, and this could actually give a bad result to themselves. They would sometimes they could doubt themselves if someone give them a constructive criticism and they don't, they don't accept it, and would most likely to give a bad impact to the people who try to, give them constructive criticism. They would most likely to feel like, oh, this person is way over their head and they're way too snob and they're most likely not good to work with. And then the person who get neglected because their potential is not as glorified as the other person would actually feel like everything that they have done regarding their skills would not be respected. And therefore I proud to propose.
Thank you, DPM. Going back to opposition, the LO.
Am I audible and clear?
Yep, I think you're audible.
Okay, let me set my timer first. Wait. Okay. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panels. We're all living in the world when we are believed that we want to be happy. We want to take all the possibilities that might make our life is better than before. We want to a life that is perfect for us, and we want it to remain forever, be happier for our next generations, right? That is what we want in our life. So what is the government team has said over this debate and bring to the table for us? They said about on how the impact long run and glorifications on how this potential is so arbitrary, it hasn't happened before, and it's all 50-50 on the realizations itself. Look what they are bringing. They say their second speaker especially talking about on how they are bringing the essay example as a glorifying their potential and trying to improve their abilities, and this will be giving people validations too much over their potential, and people with skills are going to be abandoned. This is the actual idea of what the second speaker has already said. But firstly, we need to explain. Firstly, we respond to this by saying that this is the reason why employee recruitment and college submission requiring essay or registration form, because they want to know your potential first. They need to analyze it over the quality. Are you able, or are you legitimate for joining us by this certain potential? Therefore, they can analyze the impact after this type of research are joining. If, for example, if you were a coal corporation, for example, you are not going to hire any kind of people who is learning on the field, like such as librarians, for example, because it's not required the prerequisites at all, right? But the thing is that there is a trial programs that will make the people with skills are not abandoned because just because there is are not good, there's still another changes for them to get accepted because of their experiences. For example, the thing is that if there is any possibilities for this company to recruit them, they will hire this workers, right? These suppliers, right? But secondly, we say that this is wrong. What they say about the media is really toxic, like over glorifying that is going to make people like understand that the whole things that people say on social media is actually not the realization of real life. Media is not that toxic, that they serve you how to be better, and what if you can actually change your life. Like, for example, there's a lot of inspirational cases of how people can go to university that they never think about when they just a kids of a dishwasher, for example. This is what people seeing through social media, and not only what the government team has been portraying to you. But lastly, we will give you a comparison in our case. Why is it better to propose in our proposal? So here is my argument towards the motion today. Firstly, that we on how there's only one argument on why giving hopes would be able to create better human lives, on 2 reasons. Firstly, that we are not born perfect, and second, likelihood and manifestations of real life of the potential. So firstly, on why we are not born perfect. We always have something missing from us towards how we each self viewing the world, right? For example, when you were born as a poor girl, for example, you will see the things like big houses as the things you never get, the potential we never have to have, right? And then what is the importance of the potentials? You will start to figure out on what's like and what we already have to life, right? Just to make sure that you will not die today, and we still have our family, for example, we still have food to eat, and we still can be survive in our life. Like, this is the importance of hope, on how it gets you through life even when it's not good, right? And then what happens towards the government side, and you are understand that there's life of consequences, right? You can consider any decision you make, any possibilities you have to any good change in your life. There's two things, right? The consequences of the things that you do, and then your destiny, right? People would think this way, that we agree that people need to be realistic, learning through mistakes they made. These things impact better than this just a plan on the government side, right? But trust me that the most fear that is coming when you have tomorrow exam is your score first, not your potential to answer the right questions. This is on how motivational quotes work, because right now people are tired of all people realistic expectations towards you and towards them, that they need to knowing themselves more better, to know, to understanding their level, for example. Therefore they are not going to the higher level when they are realizing that they are not belong to that place in the first place. So they would not to trying hard to expect something that doesn't belong to them, right? For example, we can see on any of how marriage life between low classes and higher classes, for example, Meghan and Harry, like, people just believe that it is not realistic for an ordinary girl marrying a prince, for example. This is what happens in our society when you look at the impact and you just only care about what people life experience told you about the impact and things, right? But secondly, on how the likelihood and manifestation of real life. Firstly, that potential makes you understand your capability level easily. This is on how you understand who you are. If I just an ordinary person, and how to I get to be married with a prince, right? This is on what will happen when you're seeing the things that is not feasible for you. For example, you will trying hard to get it on them, because you know that there is a potential. If I can be smarter than before, then I would be marry a prince, for example. If I can be richer by getting a job in any kind of place, that I would be richer, then I would meet friends in anyone, and that therefore I would get married with him, right? On the government side of the house, they see about the media glorify things that the social media happens. Let's see that the sad thing and sharing only how to be happy, right? And they never know how this impact really impacting different people who without any comparison on any life background, because people are just showing the way that they are experiencing their life in any of certain way, without knowing that other people might have under different circumstances, right? But secondly, that the potential is does not kill you. This is what the things that never explained by the government side of the house, that they said about only good things about how when you understanding impact, then they will live happily ever after by making a decisions. You will try whenever you fail, on how hard it is, rather than you not doing anything because of you afraid of because you afraid of the impact or any things that you've been predict before life. We provide you people value themselves to try anything they want, to improve all the time and try new life anywhere you want. What if potential kills you? What if it is on the worst case of us? The moment you realize that you are overdoing your self ability right now, you would stop. You would looking for other potential. For example, people who think they can do better, who without learning, like looking for a job without seeing any impact or even care about the fact that they had failed. What we value when they still working on their lives, they think to try other possibilities. This is what happened when you're desperate of having no money, then you're looking for jobs, looking for the way that new way that to go what will happen in golf, rather than thinking, oh, my family are going to be more suffer to support me going to better uni, and I will be working as a dishwasher, for example. This is even worse when you know that your destiny is not smart. You already all to achieve anything, for example. Yeah, and this and that, and you will be more suffered throughout the years. And what will happen then on the government side of the house? There will be bunch of not to apple to apple comparison between people background and solving problems. This is different from giving motivation that is sending them any possibly how hopes, but learning through the fact that is kill you by the reality, and you're not really understanding yourself itself because you've been comparing yourself impact to each other. So we are proud to oppose.
Thank you, DLO. Just a friendly reminder, guys, to watch out your timer for your substantive speech. Going back to government team, government whip.
Hello, am I audible?
Yep, you are.
Right, setting up my timer.
By the way, can you please make it more clear or louder a little bit?
Is it audible now?
Yeah, much better. Thank you.
All right. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. The biggest problem coming from opposition is their failure in understanding that over-validation on someone can harm them and then hinder their potential of achieving their full potential. Acknowledgement given to someone that have actually done their best and achieved a certain result, affirm their hard work and all the hardship they had to fight through. But praise given to someone without any result and any achievement will only give them indulgement that will give them an idea that you can do something, and even if you do not work and work hard at all, as long as you have the potential, you can help achieve something, right? It's really funny that opposition believes that everyone will have the same potential. They fail to understand that in this world, we were born unfair. There's something called a lottery of birth that given someone a bigger potential and someone with a lower potential, right? Meanwhile, on their world, they're going to give a very unfair achievement and notion to the people that as long as you have a potential, that means you're definitely going to win at life, you're going to be the best. And instead, for the people that are actually unlucky being born with less potential, they have to suffer through this unacknowledgement given by someone, even if they have worked so hard, even if they do not have as much potential, they've worked so hard, right? So we question the judge of the house on how can they actually provide this fairness for the people itself to let them understand that even though you don't have as much as potential as the other people, as long as you work hard, you can still achieve something, right? We fail to understand on how the judge of the house this is going to motivate someone, and instead are actually going to unmotivate someone who actually have less potential. But two questions, right? First, who can ensure fairness in people's development, and second, who can create a better positive development in the industry? First of all, who can ensure fairness in people's development, right? Three things. First, who can actually achieve the will to people as to how they want to develop, right? First of all, we fail to see the lack of engagement from the opposition on the idea that it creates arrogance and complacency, right? When you glorify the potential, you praise them without looking how much they worked it. It looks like, oh, as long as you have the talent, you're going to be praised like, oh, the talent of the century, the one who's going to bring change to this industry, right? The question then is, how will people have the will to develop when they're already put on the altar without hard work, right? When you're already praised so much and given so much acknowledgement, when you have not achieved nothing at all, when you have done nothing, you can already get the praise. Why would you work hard, right? On your side of the house, the question then is, how would they actually develop when they're born with that talent, right? When they believe that they didn't work hard and they could still easily win people's knowledge. On their side, most likely, those people with potential will not try to develop this potential. Instead, they will just depend on this inborn potential and what it brings to them, right? It means that people will not try to develop their ability at all, meaning that their potential will most likely be wasted, right? Looking like young genius being arrogant, believing that they're the best, because in comparison to those born with the normal potential, they can easily ace anything and get all the praises itself, right? We don't understand the will to develop does not exist at all, right? So we fail to see as to how they will actually say, oh, they'll definitely work hard with the praise of people, right? Which is untrue when we've already given you several analysis on how this will only create complacency and actually increase their ego instead. But second, we fail to see any analysis that are supporting their argument. Like they only say that, oh, because they're being praised, that's why they will be harmful. They will definitely work hard, right? The problem is that they fail to understand on the idea that praising people that haven't worked hard and praising people based on a possibility is not going to encourage them, right? Because they've done nothing at all. Instead, they're actually praising people based on a possibility that might happen and might actually fail, right? When we've already given proof to you as to how easy it is to influence people's ego and not actually improve their fact on their hard work, right? In comparison, on our side of the house, we're actually praising people based on what they achieve, right? Okay, you have the potential. Okay, you don't have the potential, right? But we're not there to praise you simply because of the possibility you may succeed. Instead, we're going to praise on you on the ability on whether you can achieve this or not, right? It looks like that even though you have a lot of potential, you still have to work hard to get a certain achievement. That even though you do not have the potential, you can still receive acknowledgement from people as long as you're willing to work hard, right? So second, what you should measure on this is as to how we can actually provide fairness to the people, right? Because we care about what people want to do, right? We do not want them to achieve something simply because of their inborn talent. Instead, we want them to do something based on what they have achieved, right? Looking like athletes being praised because they've done their best with their potential, but also because the hardship, all the injuries that they have to suffer through before their success, right? We provide them praise and acknowledgement based on what they have done and not what they can do, right? Which is fair because it puts people on an equal start as to how, as long as they are willing to work hard, there's a lot of things that are going to affect them, right? Meaning that we acknowledge every single hardship and every single thing that they have on, right? Okay, they achieved this because they have potential, but also because they have hard work, right? That's why, because on this metric of fairness, we believe that we win this, right? But second, who can actually motivate people, right? We said that for those with or without talent, we are actually giving them a chance to actually be acknowledged, right? As in comparison to there's a house that only motivate people, even in their best case, are those with potential, but not those with other potential. But second thing that they try to argue is about how on our side of the house, we're going to be affected by a lot of factors, right? So this is better because it tests their endurance, right? It does not give them the notion that as long as you have the ability, you can do everything that they want. Meaning that on our side of the house, we put the emphasis on the fact that your success are affected by a lot of factors. Meaning that it will make them have an idea to polish their potential even more, right? Because there's a lot of likelihood that might hinder them, right? Just because you own the potential does not mean it gives you a golden ticket to success. Meaning that they have to polish their potential even more. As in comparison to their side of the house, that does not give them any will to potential, right? Because on one factor, they could immediately determine one success at all, which is potential. And mean that the tipping point on this is that who can actually create a more comprehensive evaluation towards someone, right? On our side of the house, we focus on everything, right? Because there's a lot of likelihood of you failing, even though you have a huge potential. That's why on our side of the house, people are more willing to work hard, as in comparison to their side of the house when they already have the golden ticket, which is as long as they have the potential, they could actually be successful. But third of all is their concern of people being afraid because they are going to think about the worst case scenario, right? So this is going to happen on both side of the house, but what's different is people on our side of the house are going to be better simply because they're going to be hesitant, right? Instead of diving into one sector without thinking through or without understanding the sector itself, they're going to be more hesitant. They're going to do more research at all, right? They're not going to have a utopic understanding of this industry simply because IT has the biggest potential. Then they have to enter this industry without understanding whether IT is their passion or not, or whether the hardship of entering the IT industry. As in comparison to the other side of the house, because they believe that potential is the golden ticket to success, they'll simply enter that sector without thinking much of it. So the tipping point on this classage is first, who can actually provide motivation to people with or without potential, right? Thus creating an environment that actually encourage and push them to work hard because they can only receive acknowledgement if they have achieved a certain amount of success, right? But second, who can actually be fair in giving acknowledgement to people based on a lot of factors, right? Whether they have worked hard, whether they have potential, whether they have actually endured through a lot of hardship. But on their side of the house, they're not going to be fair simply because they only put one metric on actually giving people acknowledgement, which is potential itself. But second clashes, who can actually ensure a positive development in industry, right? Three things that they try to argue. First of all, whether people will hire, how people will hire people, right? Most likely they're going to hire people based on potential, which is problematic, right? So the others of the house, most likely they're going to hire people with ability. Meaning that those those that are unlucky, born with a bad lottery of birth, are most likely not going to be hired, right? Which is very unfair, but also at the same time, it does not give them a competitive environment where people are willing to work hard. In comparison, on our side of the house, because we hire people based on their result, we see what they have gone through, right? We basically, even if they don't have enough potential, as long as they have studied hard, they graduated well, or for example, they are willing to go through a lot of internship to actually be able to achieve something, they are going to be hired, right? Meaning the owners of the house, the hiring process are going to be much more transparent and more comprehensive, simply because we focus on a lot of things and not just on their potential, right? Because most likely, even if that person is potential, it does not immediately means that that person are going to be willing to work hard. But second, they try to question owners of the house on how media is not going to change people. Instead, it's going to inspire people, right? So that most likely the inspiration are going to be very bite-sized, meaning that the amount of the analysis they give to them is only on the fact that it is potential, but not actually telling people the money risk, which actually further affirms our idea. But last but not least, we believe that survival is going to be better on our side of the house simply because people understand the risk very clearly and they're not going to dive in any industry randomly. And because of the fact that we're going to hire people with transparency and the media are not going to provide as much reach as possible, and the people survivor are going to be better on our side of the house, we're so proud to propose.
Thank you, Government Web. Going to opposition web.
Yes. Let me prepare my timer first.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to stop my speech in 3, 2, 1. panels, I think it is very important to remember what we are debating here today. So I would like to reiterate the motion once again, which this how projects the glorification of potential as opposed to impact. So the key that I want to highlight here is how this motion is this house gets motion. So we are debating in hindsight. We are debating the world as it is today. We are assessing the values of the world that we know today in the aspect, in the context of the motion itself, which is potential over impact. And I think it is very important to note here that the government whole argument, where they're basically championing one very singular argument, how overconfidence can harm someone, must be thoroughly assessed first before we can even consider this argument as a legitimate argument or not. So first of all, the government team from the very first prime minister has championed about how the status quo is very bad, how the media is manipulating people, how industry is not fair to hardworking workers, and how, etc., people with potential are snubbed, or how people with potential are praised without any basis, but without any legitimacy. So I think it's already been brought by my second speaker that the status quo that we know today, and like the spirit of the debate of which we should uphold today, which is debating in hindsight, this argument is simply false. Because what we are witnessing here, what we are witnessing about potentials being prioritized over impact is simply not like that. They mention so much about media lying to people, but what they are also neglecting is what actually this is bringing, the advantages it is bringing to people right now, this very second. What we are seeing with how potential is being championed, of which we uphold here in the opposition team, is that people's failures, people's flaws, maybe their bad results, we do not condone them from it. They are being excused, normalized in a healthy, positive term, because we believe that people's life, that the people's value, they cannot be measured, they cannot be dictated by a very limited amount of time, amount of example, and that in the potential that we are championing here in the opposition team, we believe of second chances, we believe in the future, and we believe in hope, because one of the main arguments that we want to highlight is how potential is giving hope. But what if we are actually crediting their argument as legitimate? Even if we choose to believe that argument is still legitimate, this argument is still wrong, because glorification doesn't exactly work that way. People here that we are want to make the subjects of our debate today, they are still rational people, especially people that are being highlighted for their values, which mean that they have some degrees of skills of legitimacy. So they will be able to possess some degree of self-evaluation to actually assess this word and how they are viewing the word and how the word views them. Second response to this, even if the glorification happened as they narrate, we still don't get why people who are getting praised are going to not keep their good words and thus become irresponsible and etc. What will happen instead is that they will maintain their success, their current success, their current trajectory, because these people have already been incentivized to be successful. They have been already incentivized that they have potential to do great out there, and thus they will work even harder to keep this narration of self-value that they want to maintain. Okay, even third response, okay, even let's say that these skillful people aren't being helped of how people see their potential. Even if, let's see how people have the privilege that would likely win on their field of the government world, but cannot provide their skills. But this is actually what we are being concerned in the opposition world of thinking, that the skills are actually inseparable with potential. Because, for example, they mentioned so much about industry not being caring for hardworking or old workers in favor of new workers with potential. But ability that we're witnessing here today, their argument is actually very surface level talk. The more hard work you have done, the more potential you have. Because potential is not something that exists only before you started working. Potential is something that never ends. Potential is infinite. So the debate here today, we both agree that living is a process, a never-ending result, and that experience is what we want to highlight here. So on the two clashes here today, first is what defines people better. So the first issue here is that the government has been viewing potential in the context of the debate as how the outside world is viewing potential. They never care to elaborate, to debate, to engage in how potential is being viewed internally by people with those potential. And I think the most vulnerable actor that we should protect here is people from within. Their fundamental human right to develop themselves, to be facilitated for their self-growth, and etc. And that is what we should keep in mind when we are debating today. So what defines people better, potential or impact? I think it is perfectly summarized in the theory of physics that impact is defined as like a clash between two things at a very short amount of time. For example, effort versus challenge. But potential energy is something that's being stored continuously. It is something infinite. It is something unlimited, a never-ending concept of thinking. And I think it is very insulting to try to reduce people on how they do on a very limited amount of time. And that is why very easily we can prove to you that impact is definitely not the way that we want to define people, as already very elaborated by my first speaker, by the Prime Minister of the opposition team, about the counterfactual word, why impacts would be so much worse, because it is short-oriented, because it makes people focus only on the result, and that's how it is affecting people with only fear, and how fear is actually not a good tool to, encourage people to actually keep their hard work. So in this clash, I believe it is a very easy way to believe that, yes, potential is how we should view people, because people, once again, their journey is very amazing. Our journey that we have until today, how we take our first step, how we first swim, how we even first try to talk, that experience is filled with multiple failures. And that failures should not dictate us. That failures, that impacts that the government team is so championing about, they shouldn't be how we view people. We should view them on how they can develop, how they can grow, and how they can change for the better in the future. So, the second question here today is, what is most suitable for life? Once again, we agree that it's about experience, but the big issue here today, the government neglects to answer, to elaborate, to engage in how they would elaborate and how they would use impact to define these people. So when they are saying impacts, they're only thinking in the best case scenario. They never care to mention about what if someone is doing bad, and perhaps that impact is being used to define them. This thinking that is being perpetuated by the government is an old stigma that must be rooted, that must be uprooted, and we should change it, because potential, once again, potential view people as actual human beings. So when the government teams is championing about impacts, championing about people should maybe base their work on the previous achievement that has been done by multiple people before them, they never care to engage on how will this affect people, and how comparing ourselves to, I think, to people previously before us is definitely not something healthy. So once again, the championing of impact is easily debunked by us in the opposition team, because in the proposal of our way of thinking about how our potential is better, we already self to you how potential makes actually people try, and how potential inspire people to dream higher, to dream more. Because I think the very basic thing in life is to hope. And hope is like the sun. If you only believe in it when you can see it, then you will never make it through the night. Thank you.
Thank you, opposition rep, to sum up the case from up, calling replace speaker from opposition.
Am I audible and clear?
Yep.
Okay. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. So, panels, we agree that we all want a better life. We believe that potential is giving you any hopes towards the plan, and impact is giving you the truth and the realizations on how people are going to be viewing you as an individual, right? So what is the opposition? What is the government teams bring to the table over the motions on the impact, and on what impact has already done to people, and what they portrayed it. They said that impact make people realize and bring forward things that already happened, but also based on what people have achieved, that success is effect by a lot more aspect towards the things that they said, right? Okay, so what is the opposition team bring to the table by to respond to this case? That we can make possibility into reality by developing potential that it's not actually a gambling situations, but it's the things that you can be predict, that you can knowing the first things that this is are going to be happen, and you still have a lot of changes to make it good, and etc. Right? But the things is that we should not focus only on result, that we can contribute, that it is can contribute by many factors, that people are tend to be scared. We have this natural feelings to have things that will it be good or bad, and not about trying, which is that humans should be doing, and we would likely to think about the regrets when we have bad things in the future, right? And therefore what is happened here, that both themes are coming to you, that explaining this portrayal, but the things is coming from the opposition side, giving you a closure portrayal on how people are tend to rely themselves more on potential, and how this could be driving them be a better person, and not driving them crazy, but just saying that the impact would not be good, right? But secondly, on how the media the glorifications on potential is not giving you will giving you a good change rather than what impact has done. So the government side of the house bring that people will only care about the potential, that will abandon any other life skills once the potential is discovered, and people with potential will not get any constructive criticism that they explain about to turn people into snobs and stuff like that. So yeah, we give you an example that people are working on that, working on their own difficulties, right? A lot of things, such as people viewing only good things, and people are not really care about how you can be like realizing your dreams and stuff like that, because it's all about the potential that you only have, and you cannot work on that. This is what the society view it. But the things is that impact that what happens in impact, that if it is good, they only care about the success, right? They tend to not care about the development skills and how to achieve that. And if there is any bad things that happen, they would lose motivation, lose confidence. They would likely to be criticized on their act and how they made decisions. And this is how potential praise and glorification has to be in the first place, right? But the things is that on the potential is that when it is good, they would like to explore the potential, dream big and dream high. They want to try, and that is not what every human should do. And there's generally in this earth, and trying and failing and trying again, right? Even if the potential is not good, even if the potential is in it gamble, like life is a gamble, nothing is sure, nothing ever is, it's always gamble. So this is problem concern is not legitimate one, which we are debating, right? Even if life is not a gamble, that there's a potential, not exactly shooting blind, potential is being assessed by such a prejudgment before. And for example, people on potential in ISE, the writing must have already shown brilliance in that area. So we are proud to oppose.
Thank you, opposition. To sum the overall debate, I call government reply speaker.
Am I audible?
Yep, you are.
Okay, I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Now, judges, in this debate today, we have several burdens, which are better workspace environment by the result of glorification of potential, improving oneself with the potential, and also other actors that are affected by the glorification of the potential self. Now, their side of the house failed to prove how glorifying potential could increase their motivation to work hard, but even if it dies, they are still unfair due to most likely their hard work are going to be undermined, saying it's all because their potential, you're born with your basically their hard work and experiences and journey will most likely to be neglected, and instead of acknowledging that they've also done their best, they're giving efforts and stuff. And second, or B, people with little potential will then be neglected, when in fact potential is just one of the main reasons as to why people should be acknowledged. Those people who work harder than the people who get labeled as a very potential person would lose their lose their hope, because they're not labeled as potential as the other person. Now, our side of the house, we say the glorification of the potential could harm in many ways. First, making the person who gets labeled very have this large potential, like high potential, will make them an arrogant person, and giving them the notion that even if they didn't work hard, they can still crush people. They become very snob. Why then they work hard, and this is giving a bad view and disrespect of hard work, experiences, and efforts. Second, it puts excessive pressure on them, the people who get labeled as very potential person, a spotlight, spotlighting them, then that most likely if they fail, they're going to be blamed, instead of considering the situation, looking at other than their potential. And we never said that we don't acknowledge potential, but that is a mere one of many things that consider. And the fairest and most comprehensive way to give acknowledgement to someone is by the result. If something bad happened, no one will blame them simply because we don't expect them to succeed simply just because they have a high rate of potential. We say instead, this concern happened on their side because expectation of people succeeding is already put on these people with potential, meaning any mishap, even if it's not their fault, will be put on their hand because they've already get the spotlight. We actually even also give an actual equal opportunity regarding their rate of potential as the result of glorification potential. We see everyone have the same opportunity to improve regarding someone is being potential enough or not. If you are willing to work on something, you will ace on it. And we won this debate. Why? Because we give better environment to the workspace, whether it's for the person who could be labeled as a result of glorification potential, which most likely would not be feeling overestimated by themselves, that could give them a boomerang, and improving them in other fields that are not less important than the potential that keeps on putting on a throne from them. We also give a fairness in the workspace, and we are not undermining any hard work from someone who most likely to be less potential from other person. And in result, we give a better environment on this workspace for everyone, who has a potential and those who work hard also. Mitigate people, and also we mitigate people's impulsiveness to be in a sector simply because they believe it is potential, instead make them hesitate and try to understand the risk and hardship involved. Therefore, I proud to propose.
Thank you, everyone. Great debate. Because it's the end of the debate, you can leave the room and wait for the announcement. Thank you, everyone, and best of luck.